How do I keep my Bitcoin safe? I'll run you through what I think is a great process. So we've already touched on in the last couple of questions, how do I buy it? You're going from a bank, or generally speaking, you're going from your bank account to an exchange, sending from an exchange to a wallet, your own self-custody one, critically. And I've also talked through like what actually the different types of wallets can be, and single sig, multi-sig, collaborative custody, and then you could use custodians. How do I keep my Bitcoin safe? Well, it's always a horses for courses scenario. If you've got $10, does it really matter? Probably not. If you've got 90% of your net worth sitting in Bitcoin, it really fucking matters, especially if that number is a big, big number. I believe that to keep my Bitcoin safe, the best way to do that is with a multi-sig self-custody setup with geographically dispersed keys and an inheritance plan. And I'm not going to talk too much about what the contents of the inheritance plan is, but I've done some previous coaching with friends and family and helped them build their own kind of digital fortress, like what I've just described. But essentially, being your own bank requires you to take accountability and responsibility for your money. A big part of that is if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, does someone get your Bitcoin? And you need to answer that with an emphatic yes. Like, imagine what a cock up that is if you have worked your whole life, you've made all these interesting investments, or you made this great allocation into Bitcoin, and then you go and pop it for some unknown reason, and then your family can't get the Bitcoin. Like, that's an absolute disaster in inheritance planning. So you got to make sure you get this right. You got to get expertise from people that have done it before. The good news is it's actually very simple. What it requires is time and conviction. And the more that you spend time looking at it and figuring it out for yourself and using Bitcoin, the easier that becomes. So yes, to keep my Bitcoin safe, multi-sig, geographically dispersed inheritance plan. It is, as I said, a horses for courses scenario. Let's say you're a business. It actually might be better to have some kind of business to business relationship. Look at a company like OnRamp. I also mentioned Anchor Watch already. And there's a bunch of people out there that will do collaborative custody. So they'll look after a key for you as part of that 2 of 3 multi-sig. There's a number of different ways. I think it's probably most important to say that like storing wealth in Bitcoin is the safest place to store wealth. So, how do I keep my Bitcoin safe? Well, it's really like, how do I keep my wealth safe? How do I keep my shit from other people? So, well, you got to use Bitcoin, and you've got to use Bitcoin in a certain way. Like, don't go and buy a ton of Bitcoin and leave it on a crypto exchange that's also selling tons of different, crypto tokens, because you just don't know what rehypothecation risk has been taken. You have no idea how much Bitcoin they actually have on their books, and it's a huge risk. So I would 100% avoid that. That is how I would keep my Bitcoin safe. So can I lose my Bitcoin? Yes. This is question number 9. Can I lose my Bitcoin? No, you can't if you look after it correctly. So what do I think is the probability of, oh, hang on, where does this even go? This goes back further. So let me have a little bit of beer. In 2020, I'd already been managing a inheritance that I received for almost a decade. Shout out to Dad. Sadly died, 48 years old. And he was a wealthy guy, and I was his eldest son, and I inherited some money after we sold our family home. And so I was in my mid-20s. It's like, what do you do with this stuff? And obviously, what you want to do is you want to keep it. You want to make sure that what you get, you steward, you nourish, you grow, and you give it to the next generation. And so I tried investing in a number of different areas. Real estate, public markets, so a kind of classic equity bond portfolio with wealth managers. And I think 2015 was when I first bought Bitcoin. And it wasn't until 2020 that I suddenly realized how big a deal it was, because I saw Michael Saylor, who I have yet to interview or meet, but I will one day. I'm absolutely sure of it. He was buying Bitcoin and calling it his treasury reserve asset. And I specifically remember an interview he did with Raoul Pal, and it's titled Bitcoin Infiltrates Corporate America. About 2 hours long. And in it, there was one question that caught my attention. How do I know that the man or woman managing my company 100 years from now has the best possible chance of survival. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And I was like, whoa, that's massive. Because that's how I'd been thinking. It's like, how do you look after this stuff for 100 years? And the answer is, like, most companies, they don't last 100 years. Most houses fall apart before 100 years. Most government debt is more than definitely gone, right? Nation states rise and fall. So if you want to own something for 100 years, there's actually not many options out there. And I'm now firmly of the belief that Bitcoin, the probability of Bitcoin being around 100 years from now, I would put it over 90% personally, which is a lot higher than what are the chances of Apple being around 100 years from now? What are the chances of US bonds or UK gilts being around 100 years from now? I'm not going to put that at 90%, right? Like the euro, like you're honestly going to buy euro bonds like from 100 years from now? No, you're not. And so the question was, can I lose my Bitcoin? The answer is, if you buy it and store it correctly, no, it will still be around. And that is one of the coolest things about it. So it's not all that obvious in a way. Like, is it going to continue functioning for 100 years? Yes, I fully believe it will. And by that time, it'll be fully adopted. It'll be the base layer of a new digital renaissance. Can you lose it in the kind of more like practical sense? Yes. So if you send your Bitcoin somewhere and it's not a wallet that you control or an address you control, or it's not the address for the person you thought you were sending it to, it is gone. If you lose your seed phrase, it is gone. If you screw up the custody of it somehow and you can't access it, you put a passphrase on your wallet and you can't remember what that wallet is, it is gone. There's no customer line. You can't call up customer service and be like, oh, I just sent money to the wrong person. Can you get it back for me? It's gone. So yes, you absolutely can lose your Bitcoin. You want to make sure that you custody it in a way that it's not at risk of theft, it's not at risk of fire, it's not at risk of flooding. And there are absolutely ways to do that, especially compared to like previous monies, right? Like, how do you defend yourself when you've got gold bullion on you? Well, if someone turns up with a better weapon than what you've got, it's gone. Whereas Bitcoin, it's very, very easy to defend. And that's what's such a cool thing about it. So can I lose my Bitcoin? Absolutely, you can. Will you lose it if you look after it correctly? No. And then, like, holy shit, superpower 100 years from now, pretty good bet.